let's write collapse whitespace. Okay, so collapse whitespace is going to take a string and it's going to get rid of most of the white space. And so you can see we have a new line, some spaces, and a tab, and some spaces. And what it's going to do is first convert new lines, tabs, anything that's white space into just a space. So there's no new lines, no tabs. And what it's also going to do is only a single space. So if you have multiple spaces, you only get one space. So A, that new line becomes a space. B, there you go. A, that new line becomes a space. But then all of this white space is ignored. In this case, A, that new line is a space. Ignore, 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 ignore. You get to a B, that becomes there. A space, that space is this space. And then you ignore all this white space until you get to C, which is that one. And then that space comes out, and then all these other spaces don't. That's why this test case works. Okay? So what we see when we're solving this is you just go through the string, and every time you find anything that's not white space, you just use it. If you find something that is white space, there's two cases. If we just saw white space, so in other words, where we just saw white space here and now we're on this character, then we do nothing. But if we haven't just seen white space, then we go ahead and include a space. Okay? So what we have to do while we're going along is we have to keep track of one value, whether or not the previous character was white space. So here we are, and we're ready to write this. Okay? So we go here to, where is it? Collapse whitespace. Okay? And we'll say, let's say prev_char is white space, is space, and that turns out to be false when we start. The result is the empty string, and for every character in the string, what do you do? Well, first off, there's two possibilities. The character is white space, or it's not. And when we're done, we'll return the result. Okay? So white space includes new lines, tabs, spaces. Everything we want is handled right there. If it's not white space, like if it's an A, a B, whatever we said, what do? You include, you include the character in the result, and then the previous character, because this character becomes the previous character. When we saw an A or a B, that's not white space. If it is white space, well, then what do? Then if the previous character was not white space, which you could do that way, or if you prefer, just say that. If the previous character was not white space, then we go ahead and add a space. If it was white space, we do nothing. And then the previous character is in fact a space. And you can do that out here if you want, because it's true in either case. Although we already know it's true out there, so in here makes more sense. Okay? So let's review. As we're marching along, if we see a letter that's not space, just use it and remember, okay, that wasn't a space. Now we get to a space. Woohoo, it's a space. Since the last one wasn't a space, we include a space, and that space is there even if we saw a tab or a new line. And now we remember we just used a space. So if the next character is a space, we won't fall in here and we'll ignore it. And we run this and it worked. That's that. That is collapse whitespace.